Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sportcat Daily Gazette. I got to push a few buttons here to keep us legal so I don't get arrested by the Australian police. If I can find the button to push. Well, I got a button here somewhere. Where is it? All my buttons have disappeared. What the hell? Here we go. Hold on. I got to figure this out.
You're listening to a Dare Media Group and Mastiff Media radio station. From Dare Media Group, Radio X Gold, Radio X Country, 6RXM, Radio X Magic, and Dare Talk Radio. And from Mastiff Media, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Forward Radio, Mastiff Sports, and Shady News Radio. For more information, visit daremediagroup.com.au or mastiff.medias.
You're tuned to the Sportcat Show.
The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
And here I am, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the Sportcat Daily Gazette. Come over and join us on YouTube. We have a great chat. We have Denise in the chat, and we have Chris, two of my super fans who keep me going and keep me on my toes. You can come over and join us. Come over to the YouTubes and find the Sportcat shows, the Paranormal Guys, and check us out and join in. And dude, hold on. I can't copy her voice very well. Like, oh, okay. I'm going to get them to do, I'm going to be doing an upcoming promotion where I'm competing with other podcasts, and I'm going to ask her to do the promo. We're going to be raising money for St. Jude's, and the winner that raises the most money gets a, there will be a special show, I guess, is the first thing. You get a belt and you get a prize, and I mean, it's not monetary. I think it's like a trophy or something. And it's more for fun to raise money. So I'm going to get her to do the promo, and I will be posting the link as soon as they give it to me. I was on a show last night. A friend asked me to hop on his show. It was the Best Damn Podcast, and you should jump over and check it out sometime. We spent about an hour and a half just laughing and telling stupid stories. So it was fun. And Tyler and them are great. And it's a part of Casey's podcast network. So if you know Casey, it'll be fun. So, all right. Well, today was just a day I didn't want to get out of bed. I'm just not feeling it. And I don't know. Just one of those days. All right. Well, we'll start off. First off, it's currently 13:04 Eastern. But we want to say good morning in Perth and good morning in Sydney, where it's 1 and 3 a.m. Why do you guys want to hear me at this hour? Goodness, I don't know that I want to hear myself. All right, let's see what we got here. We'll jump in and start with on this day in history, like we normally do. And I didn't want to even read the news today. I just didn't want to read the news today. I didn't want to get out of bed. All right, so it's hot. I just don't feel well. No, never mind. Y'all don't want to hear me bitch. All right. So today is August 12th. We'll go back in time and do a little history because we all love history, right? Except when you're in middle school. And so we go way back to 1121, Battle of Degory. Is that Degory or Degorel? The Georgian army under King David, the builder, wins a decisive victory over the renowned Sedgwick commander Iligaz. So Chris, yeah, you may have heard of her. So she's kind of a big deal. 1480, Ottoman troops conquer Ontario in southern Italy after a 15-day siege, killing 12,000 and enslaving 5,000 while beheading 800 Christians for refusing to convert to Islam. Remember, sometimes history repeats itself. So that's all I'm going to say. In 1851, inventor Isaac Singer patents the first sewing machine. 1908, the Ford Motor Company builds its first Model T car, which Henry Ford himself tests on a hunting trip to Wisconsin in northern Michigan. Interesting side note, they had a Ford, I don't know if it was a dealership or assembly line here in Knoxville, and my great grandfather was one of the head mechanics, never owned a vehicle day in his life, walked to and from work the entire time he worked for Ford here in Knoxville. Hello, Wendell. Welcome to the chat. Glad you're here. In 1981, Don Estridge unveils the company's first personal computer, the IBM PC, at New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel. It's priced at $1,565, 16 kilobytes of RAM, and it started the computer era. I remember the Tandy 1000. I was a salesperson in high school at Radio Shack. It was $9.99 on sale for Christmas. And it had dual floppy disks and a monochrome screen. And then when we upgraded to RGB and got our first 1200 baud modem, as juvenile delinquents, it took us an hour to download our first JPEG. I'll just let you figure that out from there. 1927, silent film Wings, starring Clara Bow, and directed by William A. Wellman, premieres in New York as the first film of one of two silent films to win an Academy Award. 1991, Metallica released its fifth album, which debuts at number 1 on the Billboard chart. 1964, Mickey Mantle switch hits a home run for the 10th and final game in a game, with one going 502 feet. Wow, that's a long home run. I wonder what the world's record for the longest home run is. I should look that up sometime. Chris says 16 kilobyte of RAM was the size of a refrigerator back then. Yeah, the Tandy 1000 came in this big cube box that took both arms and it's heavy. Then there was a TRS-80 we had in high school, where it had the cassette player that hooked up to it so you could back up your work, and we had to write like a program that would like do simple calculations. Now you just push a button. Let's see. In 30 BCE, Cleopatra died by suicide. Oh, well, hopefully YouTube won't flag me for that picture. So Egyptian Queen Cleopatra takes her own life. Forces are defeated by her Roman political rival Octavian. According to the legend, her husband Mark Antony died first after he stabbed himself, thinking Cleopatra was already dead. He told her to make peace with Octavian, but after the Roman leader refused her advances, she made a poisonous asp bite her. A poisonous ASP bite her and died rather than submit to his forces. What is a poisonous asp? I gotta know. That's gotta be a typo. Hold on, I gotta figure this out. Poisonous asp commonly refers to a venomous caterpillar, the pus caterpillar. Okay, didn't know that. There you go. She got bit by poisonous spider or caterpillar and died. All right, there you go. Now you know. In 1895, Minnie Dean is executed. New Zealand serial killer Minnie Dean is hanged after being convicted of infanticide. Earlier that year, she was seen boarding a train with a baby and a hatbox, then leaving the train without the baby and a suspiciously heavy hatbox, according to railroad porters. Police dug up her garden and found the bodies of 3 children. She is the only woman to be executed in the history of New Zealand. Interesting. 1939. Hey, we're going to have a little story about this in a bit. 1939, The Wizard of Oz premieres. It struggled to break even in its theatrical run. It's since become one of the most enduring classics in history. The world premiere took place in Octomowako. I probably pronounced that wrong, and I'm sorry, Wisconsin, based on L. Frank Baum's best-selling novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The movie delighted audiences everywhere with its vivid Technicolor scenes and musical number like Judy Garland's Over the Rainbow. According to the Library of Congress, The Wizard of Oz is the most seen film in movie history. Denise says the longest verifiable home run in professional baseball history was hit by Joey Meyer of the Denver Zephyrs in 1987. It traveled 582 feet, which is 77 meters, inside Denver's Mile High Stadium. Wow, that's a long home run. That's a beautiful, or it was a beautiful stadium. I haven't been there. 1944, Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. is killed. The older brother of John F. Kennedy is killed during a World War II mission as Operation Aphrodite. 1967, Buford Pusser's wife is murdered. Buford Pusser's wife, Pauline, is murdered while investigating a disturbance out of town. Buford Pusser was a sheriff in Tennessee known for his crackdowns on crime and corruption. After his wife was fatally shot while tagging along on her husband's work call, he became hell-bent on getting revenge. He identified 4 people responsible for the attack, and as time passed, 3 would die under, quote, mysterious circumstances. He would never be connected to any of the deaths. He joined his wife in 1974 after dying in a car crash. 1990, history's most complete T-Rex is discovered. I just can't talk. Explorer Sue Hendrickson comes across the most complete fossil of a T-Rex ever discovered during a commercial excavation trip in Faith, South Dakota. Named Sue after its finder, the T-Rex is around 40 feet long, 13 feet tall, and probably weighed around 18,000 pounds when it roamed the earth. More than 90% of Sue's remains have been found, and the creature is displayed in the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, Illinois. Hey, there you go. I discovered later in life that every time we went to the Smithsonian's and we saw all the bones and relics, that they were all fake, that they keep the real ones in a vault hidden somewhere. Governments always find new ways to get rid of those Kennedys. Well, yeah, that's true. All right, so today in history, it's Julian Fry's Day. What the hell is a Julian Fry? I'm a Fry fan, so I got to check this out. Julian, I'm probably saying it wrong, Fry's Day is on every August 12th. Everyone fries up skinny sliced potatoes for a delicious, crunchy treat. We love food holidays of all kinds. Cut into thin, uniform matchsticks, Julian fries tend to be crispier and are often called shoestring fries. It's no surprise that this delicate and precise cut is a French favorite. Just look to the 1722 edition of Francis Mazelat's La Something or Another, the oldest written reference to the Julie cut. Interesting. I was thinking where they were going with this, that looks surprisingly to me a lot like Waffle House. What do they call them? Hash browns. That's what that looks like. I guess they're bigger, but that's what it looks like to me. And if anybody's curious, I like them scattered, smothered, covered. It's National Vinyl Record Day, and that's making a comeback with some pop, I understand. It's National Middle Child Day. Well, I'll have to call my daughter Paige and give her some love. And let's see. It's International Youth Day. Well, I hit the button. So it's International Youth Day. All right. Well, good. Now let me figure out how to get out of the screen. Maybe I can. Yeah, I got a show to run. You'd think I know what I'm doing here. It's Glorious 12th. Okay, I'm sorry. That's a chicken. What the hell is a Glorious 12th? Glorious 12th is a holiday that is celebrated every August 12th. It marks the beginning of shooting season for the red grouse, and it's considered to be one of the busiest days in shooting season. On this day, there's usually a large amount of game hunted and shot. The red grouse is usually farmed for shooting, which results in their unnaturally high population. They are susceptible to disease outbreaks, which causes a fluctuation in their numbers yearly. Whenever the 12th day of August falls on a Sunday, it's always postponed until the 13th. English law forbids game bird shooting on Sundays. Interesting. Different animals have different starts to their opening season. Most open beginning September 1st. With the woodcock and pheasant, they have their day October 1st. I thought it was a chicken. So, all right. I'm holding this show up, ain't I, with my non-technical abilities today. I need to move this so I can see. Let's see. It's IBM PC Day. We discussed that. Middle Child Day. I'll say hello to page. And ironically enough, it's Milkman Day, so we've always said she may have come from the milkman. It's Mother's Day in Thailand, National Gooey Butter Cake Day. Now, see, if Mom was here, I would ask her about that. We talked about the fries. We talked about its final record day, and it's World Elephant Day. Chris says shoestrings that are short wouldn't be shoestrings that are that short wouldn't be very effective. Exactly. That's why it looked to me like it was hash browns. I don't know. All right. Well, the Farmer's Almanac was released. What do you guys think? 25-26 winter forecast. Here you go, Chris. Illinois to see chilly, snowy season. Well, the U.S. the Farmer's Almanac is predicting a season of dramatic swings in widespread wintry weather. For those who are sick and tired of the heat, yes, I'm very sick and tired of the heat. In my mom's attic, it's very hot. This may be good news, but for the others who hate the yearly drop in temperatures and onslaught of snow, the forecast may be daunting. Well, here's what we know. Illinois is going to face cold, snowy winter season. The winter doesn't officially begin until winter solstice, 21 December. The Farmer's Almanac is predicting a chilly, snowy season for much of the country. The 209th edition of the Almanac forecasts the chill snow repeat weather patterns for 25-26 winter season. And we see here on the map, on the northwest, chilly and wet. In the southwest, average wet temperatures. Looks like the center of the country there is going to be hammered. Very cold, very snowy, cold and wet in the Texas Panhandle. Up in the Great Lakes, Chicago, Ohio Valley. Looks like you're going to be a little cold and snowy. My son up in Vermont, cold and snow-filled. And in the mid-Atlantic and deep south, average temperatures and wet. We could use some wet right now in Knoxville. It hasn't rained in weeks. Let's see. Farmer's Almanac said the Midwest region will get cold temperatures, perhaps blowing down from the north, especially in Indiana and northern Michigan. The Great Lakes will see a pretty big snowstorm from February 8th through the 11th. How do they know that far out? With snow giving way to very cold temperatures at the beginning of March, snow to most of the region. The month will end with brisk, windy conditions plus snow in the north. How do they know this? Overall, the Almanac predicts a very cold, very snow winter season for Illinois, so you better start hunting for that winter jacket now. How do they know this? We can't predict where a hurricane is going, but I can tell you it's going to snow in February. I don't know about this. I'm calling horse hockey. So, all right, we talked about this the other day, and Dr. Stephen Greer, I love him or hate him, he is sometimes a very unique individual. If you ever listen to any of his stuff, he's a little out there sometimes, and he claims that the government's trying to kill him. I don't know. I'm just saying. But he says a mysterious interstellar object speeding towards the solar system, brighter than a comet, traveling on Earth's orbital plane and accelerating, has triggered fresh debate on whether it's a natural phenomena or something far more unusual. But Stephen Greer, the founder of the Disclosure Project, told Newsmax on Monday, the truth is likely far less sensational. The Disclosure Project is a nonprofit research organization dedicated to government disclosure of alleged alien sightings. It's less likely to be a manufactured alien object than a stray asteroid, he told Finnerty. We need better eyes on it before we start the hype. Well, okay then. And I don't know if I ran with that story today. I will say it. The government acknowledges that there are 4 types of aliens, and I don't know if I got that story in here or not, but they're insectoids, reptilians, greys, and I'm forgetting one. I don't know. I'll have to think about it for a minute. Speaking of Yellow Brick Road, well, it was found on the Pacific Ocean floor during a groundbreaking volcanic expedition. The Wizard of Oz got a tip of the hat from scientists poking around in an ancient underwater volcano chain in the Pacific Ocean as they discovered what looked like yellow brick road. The natural brickwork was actually the result of volcanic geology, which has fractured the rock in curiously uniform way. Nautilus pilots exploring the ancient seamounts of, and don't ask me to pronounce that, Lilicoy Ridge as part of the Lilicoy expedition. Wendell, don't ask me to repeat that. The discovery, you can watch play out on the video below. The team is attempting to sample some manganese crust from the seafloor with the help of the robotic arm and having some success. I'm going to mute this while we read. The proficient use of the claw gives the team the opportunity to more closely inspect a clump of manganese crust, a marine sedimentary mineral made of iron and manganese oxide. Sample secured, the vessel shuffles on and stumbles across a surprisingly dry-looking stretch of what they call baked crust, which are cobblestone yellow brick road, comes into view. What is it, says one researcher to another. Well, what looks like a yellow brick road to the mythical city of Atlantis is really an example of ancient active volcanic geology, they explained on YouTube. The bizarre geological formation was along a stretch of the summit seamount, which sits within the Marine National Monument. I'm not even going to try. Wendell, if you got that one, just let me know. At first, it looks like a patch of dried lake bed, but has since been identified as hycalocite, which is a type of volcanic rock. Let's see if we can just zoom forward here and see the yellow brick road, because that's what we're here for. We're here for the yellow brick road. It is cool what they're doing, though. And they did discover a new creature. No. Where's the yellow brick road? I don't see a yellow brick road. I somehow feel cheated in this YouTube video, as most of my viewers do. Okay, we're coming up on it here. There you go. That is what they're calling the yellow brick road. I wonder how deep that is. That's got to be pretty dang deep under the ocean. Beautiful. There's some kind of sea life we don't, and there it is. Some kind of sea life we don't understand yet. And there is the yellow brick road. Interesting how it's just a formation of volcanic rock, or at least that's what they want us to believe. Let's see. The delight of the pilots while making the strange observation is palpable, but it's no doubt an emotion they'll have to get used to as the exploration of the seamounts in the first ever survey of the underwater region here. They're hoping to understand why perplexing split exists in the seamount trail, but who knows what they'll find along the way. This is the same expedition that captured incredible footage of a swimming headless chicken monster. Well, they're in for a few surprises. And yes, I had to click to see what a swimming headless chicken was. And that's a swimming headless chicken monster. It's apparently a version of a sea cucumber. Chris says, I was guessing 3.5 feet deep, but it seems illogical now. Yeah. And, you know, anytime you can see a headless chicken monster, I'm in. I did want to get out of bed today. All right, speaking of weird animals. No, not that weird. The Chinese have sent robot antelope to spy on Tibet's wildlife. To the wolves of Tibet, China, robot antelope may look appetizing as the real herds that roam the rugged tundra, but the creature is part of Beijing's growing surveillance that now even reaches into the most remote places. Its doe-like eyes and thick brown fur make the robotic ruminant, I don't know, nearly indistinguishable from the real antelope, as the 5G and AI, there we go, integrated imposter scans Ho-X Plateau with its sensors. Footage from China's state news agency shows. Developed in Exuno, and that's probably wrong, the Chinese Academy of Sciences and based Deep Robotics, the robot antelope is equipped with 5G connectivity, artificial intelligence vision systems enabling real-time monitoring of the migration, feeding, and mating behaviors of the endangered species endemic to Tibet. China is offering its robotic industry to tens of billions of subsidies, was the host of the 2025 World Robot Conference. 5G arrived in Tibet in 2019, according to the Chinese government. And apparently, so wait a minute here. So in 2019, we had this and we didn't know about it. So what do we have now? Interesting question. I'm not going to read the whole article. If you want to go over here and find it, you can find this article on Cyber News and read about the robot antelope. So my question is, we had a Chinese robot or Chinese spy balloon fly over us. Could they have dropped tiny antelope babies and now they're full grown roaming the countryside? I don't know. Let's just start that conspiracy theory. Why not? Because I'm telling you, some of the others that I have seen on the internet from some of these other shows, YouTube's first prepper channel is full of shit. Noah Centini cast as Rambo in prequel to Sylvester Stallone, the franchise reports. I did not know there was going to be a sequel, but apparently he is going to redo the First Blood. What we need to know, they're reporting on the 11th that he agreed and will star in a prequel of Sylvester Stallone's Rambo, titled John Rambo. Stallone, 79, originated the role in 1982 First Blood and starred in 5 Rambo movies in total. The new film will reportedly follow the character during the Vietnam War and begin... Hold on here, I lost my track. Begin filming in early 2026. He is poised to take on one of Sylvester Stallone's most iconic roles. He's 29 and he wasn't even born when this was on. Good Lord. Deadline reported the movie will be directed by Jalmi Helander Sisu. Don't get me. Written by Rory. I don't know any of these numbers. And that the film plans to be filmed in 2026 in Thailand. No details have been made available yet regarding the movie's story, but it's reported that will serve as a Vietnam War set origin story for the 79-year-old Stallone character, who is introduced as a traumatized veteran who gets into violent confrontations with small-town police and sheriffs. That's so old, I've forgotten what the hell the movie's about. First Blood ultimately spawned 4 sequels that gave the series the iconic Rambo title. Stallone himself directed 2008's Rambo, the 4th film series, and returned one more time in 2019, The Last Blood, which saw Rambo travel to Mexico to save his niece after she is kidnapped by the cartel. Stallone has expressed an interest in seeing a prequel made as far back as 2019, and he's always thought about the character when it was 16 or 17. I hope they can do a prequel. He was the best person you could find, Stallone said of his idea. He was the captain of the team. He was the most popular kid in school, super athlete. He was like Jim Thorpe and the war that changed him. If you saw him before, he was like the perfect guy. So there you go. There you go. 2023 implied that he did not plan to make... In 2023, he implied he did not plan to make another movie in the Rambo series. During an appearance at the Toronto International Film Festival. He's done pretty much, even though they want to do another one, but what am I fighting? Arthritis? He joked at the time. Yeah, it sneaks up on you. All right. This comes to us from the Smoking Gun. DJ trades wheels of steel for bars of iron. All right, try and get this image out of your head. Responding to an indecent exposure complaint, police found Anthony Smith, 32, walking around the Florida Park afternoon wearing women's lingerie, the bottoms of which were the thong variety, and left Smith's genitals fully exposed, fake breasts, a wig of long black hair, a black mask around his face, a hoo-ha ring that is used for arousal purposes, as well as to maintain erections. Wendell, do you got one of those? A black foxtail protruding from his posterior. Upon further examination, the bushy tail turned out to be attached to a plug that was inserted where the sun doesn't shine. Smith, who works as a party wedding DJ, tried to evade a cop who initially discovered him inside an Indian Riverside Park in Jensen Beach. He was eventually apprehended near the Children's Museum of the Treasure Coast. The witness who called 911 to report a suspicious individual with his organs exposed was in the park to pick up their kids from a summer camp at the museum, but said that no children witnessed the event. Why? Asked by police what was going on today, he reportedly said that he suffers from some sort of sexual addiction and that engaging in lewd behavior arouses him. He added that this was not the first time he'd had a run-in with law enforcement for the same kind of behavior, according to a police report. He was convicted in 2017 of indecent exposure, resisting arrest after he was spotted naked, pleasuring himself in public. In post-arrest comments, he reportedly said he does not see this as pornographic. Smith said he does this because pornographic materials do not suffice his sexual desires, and he does not want to violate his morals by having sexual relations before marriage or by using a female solely for sexual purposes. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail in 2017, told the arresting officers that he had been arrested twice in the past for committing this act, charged with one count of exposure, sexual organs, and resisting arrest, both misdemeanors. He was booked last week in the county jail. He's being held in advance of a court appearance. According to court records, he resides in a Stewart home owned by his parents. Shocker. His DJ Film, which has been accredited by the Better Business Bureau, operates with firm. His DJ firm, which operates in that residence and has got a good rating with the Better Business Bureau. Well, I hope some of my listeners go to Google review and give him a horrible review. Why was he out? Why are people like this out? I don't understand that. I just don't understand that. We're going to talk about a couple of them today because, well, let's see. We'll get to them in a minute. So we'll cover this real quick. The Nevada court apparently clears way for former Raiders coach John Gruden to return to the NFL. Make it bigger. What are you doing? A Nevada court apparently cleared the way for a 2021 lawsuit by former Las Vegas Raiders coach John Gruden to proceed against the NFL after Commissioner Roger Goodell alleging that a malicious and orchestrated campaign was used to destroy his career by leaking old emails he had sent that included racist, misogynist, and homophobic comments. Good Lord. In 2022, the NFL appealed to the Nevada's High Court. Okay. High Court after a judge in Las Vegas rejected league's bid to dismiss Gruden's claim outright to order out-of-court talks through a arbitration process that would be overseen by Goodell. The Supreme Court's ruling 5-2 said the arbitration clause in the NFL Constitution is unconscionable and does not apply to Gruden as a former employee. The lawsuit alleges that Goodell and the league pressured the Raiders to fire him by leaking emails containing racist, homophobic, and sexist comments that he sent when he was an on-air analyst for ESPN from 2011 to 2018. He resigned in October of 2021, only to sue the NFL afterwards. All right, we talked about this yesterday. I'm not going to give this a lot of airtime, but on Monday's Meet the Press, D.C. Councilman Robert White Jr. said that we're going to see, quote, flare-ups between people in D.C. and federal officers that are unnecessary and many of them unprovoked. It's going to move us in the wrong direction, and there are going to be interactions that flare up tensions. He said, I worry a lot about the lack of clarity, the lack of direction, and the fact that federal officers are not trained for neighborhood policing. So again, we have the format for partnership, but that's not what's happening here. We invite real partnership, though. He was then asked, do you think their presence makes the district safer? He said, I think we're going to see a lot of moving backwards. I'm hearing from residents who are scared. There are going to be interactions that flare up tensions that moves us in the wrong direction. So to answer your question, I think we're going to see flare-ups that are unnecessary and unprovoked, and it's going to take us in the wrong way. It's not good for people who live in DC or visit here. All right, well, I want to comment on something about this from being inside public safety. Federal officers are not trained. No, I don't want that. Federal officers are not trained for neighborhood policing. Disagree, because most federal officers require at least 2 to 5 years of police work before you can apply for a federal job. You can't just walk in and get any of these jobs. It doesn't work that way. So he is inaccurate in his statement. All right. Alaska was once a full-fledged Russian colony. Now it's hosting a Russian-U.S. summit. And Russia lost a war in Crimea in 1850, leaving the country deep in debt. To ease the burden, Russia cut a deal with the U.S. government, selling its colony of Alaska to Americans. Now, President Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin will hold a summit Friday in Alaska to discover another difficult and costly Russian war involving Crimea, one of the territories Russia has captured in its fight with Ukraine. The decision to meet in Alaska appears mostly practical. It is where the U.S. and Russia almost touch, separated by just a mere 55 miles in the Bering Strait. Yet beyond geography, there's also symbolism and a fascinating shared history. Alaska was a full-fledged Russian colony from 1799 to 1867. Some Russians, including Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev, are pointing to that period on social media, posting photos of Russian Orthodox churches with their onion domes that were built in Alaska in the 19th century and still stand. Some Americans might know that we bought Alaska from Russia, but they don't necessarily know it was a real colony, said Lee Farrow, a history professor at Auburn's University at Montgomery. The author of Seward's Floyd, a new look at the Alaskan Purchase. It wasn't just a piece of territory the Russians stuck a flag in. They had a strong presence as well as in California. Did not know that about California. Farrow was referring to Fort Ross, an outpost the Russians established, which is now part of Sonoma County in Northern California. It was sold for pittance. To sell Alaska was the decision to sell Alaska was motivated by the decision to pay off the need to pay off the war debts accumulated during 1853 to 1856 Crimea War, which Russia lost to the combined forces of Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire. By this time, Russian hunters in Alaska had killed off most of the accessible bears, wolves, otters, and other animals with valuable furs and pelts, and they saw very little economic reason to stay. Alaska seemed more of a liability than asset and was extremely remote even by the standards of the Russian Empire. It was sometimes called the Siberia's Siberia. After brief negotiations in the spring of 1867, the U.S. agreed to pay $7.2 million, which works out to 2 cents per acre. Alaska covers more than 500,000 square miles and is the largest U.S. state. The agreement come to be known as Seward's Folly, a reference to Secretary of State William Seward, who negotiated the deal under President Andrew Johnson. Critics called the Alaskan frozen wasteland, though Farrow said that description was inaccurate then and now. The deal attracted relatively little attention in the U.S., even though the country was rapidly expanding westward. The purchase provoked a bit of squabbling in Washington, with some newspaper arguing against it, but it was never a major political issue. Little U.S. government investment in the early days of the U.S. territory, Alaska, and its indigenous people were mostly ignored. The U.S. government invested little, and the few Americans who ventured there tended to be missionaries or adventurers who were largely on their own. Only decades later did Alaska begin to develop. Gold was discovered in 1896. Alaska became a state in 1959, and large oil reserves were found in the 50s and 60s. There are some Russians today who think Alaska should be theirs. When Farrow went to Russia in 2017 after her book was published and spoke to groups, she could always count on predictable questions. In every audience, there was at least one person who asked whether or not the U.S. had legitimately purchased Alaska. She says there has been a very strong narrative in Russia that we either did not pay for it or it was a lease and we should have returned it. The Crimea leak, while Alaska changed hands peacefully, Crimea is a territory that's often been in conflict due to its strategic location as a peninsula jutting into the Black Sea. Russia wanted full control of Crimea when it launched a war against the Ottoman Empire in 1853. Russians expected a quick and easy victory and did not expect Western powers to intervene. France and Britain joined the war against Russia, and the Russian army proved far less capable than Tsar Nicholas had anticipated. They suffered a humiliating defeat. In the 20th century, Crimea was part of the Soviet Union, but when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, it became a newly independent Ukraine. Fast forward to 2014, Putin sent Russian troops into Crimea as he launched his invasion of Ukraine, seizing the territory without any serious fighting. Ukraine is demanding Crimea back and regularly carries out airstrikes with drones and missiles at the Russian forces. Crimea will have to be part of the serious peace negotiations and can feature in the Trump-Putin summit this Friday. And by the way, apparently Trump did refer to Alaska as he was going to Russia. Yeah. He just can't make these headlines up some days. And let's see. Let's get back to here. Chris says, scared people usually hide and avoid confrontation. Bad actors and criminals do what this guy is predicting and may even be dog whistling, to be fair. And let's see, check this and make sure it's nothing important. Okay, good. All right, so this comes to us from Seattle. Sex offender who calls himself, and I swear if you're listening and I can't see the screen, I'm not making this up. And this is not a Florida story. Seattle sex offender calls himself the Master Baiter and is charged with new public crimes. In Seattle, a repeat offender who identifies himself as the masturbator has been arrested again for allegedly masturbating inside a Seattle grocery store. According to the charging documents, 46-year-old Keenan Charles Pearson continuously commits sex acts in public despite multiple convictions for sex crimes. The King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office filed 2 new charges of felony indecent exposure against Pearson this month. This is a quote. The defendant is a prolific public masturbator with 3 convictions for felony indecent exposure, 1 misdemeanor indecent exposure for similar conduct. Charging documents state the defendant has a demonstrated inability to follow court orders and appear in court. He is required to register as a sex offender, but is not in compliance with that obligation. Furthermore, the defendant has had warrants issued for his arrest for failure to appear on over 40 occasions and has 2 outstanding warrants at the time of this writing. His most recent arrest happened at the grocery store in Seattle's Chinatown district on May 5th. According to an arrest report, 911 callers called to report a man masturbating in front of customers, including children. A Seattle police officer responded and detained him. When Sergeant Johnson asked him for his name, he identified himself as the masturbator. And the report states that when Sergeant Johnson asked him what he was doing inside the store, he admitted that he was, quote, stroking inside the store. While speaking with officers, he was actively looking at women and saying they should be in his, quote, show. Investigators discovered Pearson is non-compliant, who was recently sentenced for previous exposure charges in March. In a prior case, he was arrested for masturbating inside a Safeway, which is a grocery store, and told deputies he was watching women in yoga pants inside the store. He spent 325 days in the King County Jail and was released in April 25th. In a plea recommendation, public defender said Pearson is a homeless man, uses drugs, and has mental health issues. You think? Mr. Pearson wants to work hard to avoid being in his present position again and to avoid causing alarm to other people in the community, a memo in 2024 stated. Prosecutors and the defense agreed the time he served in jail, the case was a sufficient sentence, and he was released on April 11th. The public defender noted in the report that he planned to stay at a homeless shelter in Pioneer Square when he was released. They show he has 6 prior convictions of indecent exposure, voyeurism, and indecent liberties. He is also the subject of a sexual assault protection order. A report prepared by the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office says he has been involved in 24 criminal cases in Washington and Missouri. Judge granted the prosecutor's request for $150,000 bail, and he remains in the King County Jail. Why is he out? Because history shows us that eventually he will keep upping his game until he commits a more serious crime and harms other people. What she said. So I don't know if y'all heard that. My dog is snoring. Ginger's crashed out. All right, so we talked about this earlier in the week. The CDC shooting left 150 window shattered, 180 rounds fired, and the suspect died by self-inflicted gunshots. New details are emerging about the U.S. Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention in Atlanta, including the scale of the damage. The identity of the gunman in a 911 call made by the suspect's father after the attack. They say 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White of Kennesaw fired more than 180 rounds, shattering about 150 windows and doors across multiple buildings on the CDC campus. Some bullets pierced, quote, blast-resistant glass, sending shards 30 to 60 feet into rooms. The buildings housing the CDC director office sustained the most bullet strikes, though it's unclear if her office was directly hit. The facility's main guard booth was also damaged. More than 500 shell casings were found, 5 firearms, and about 200 rounds impacted the building. It was revealed that the weapons belonged to the suspect's father. Weapons were secured, but he forced himself into the safe where they were stored. CDC authorities say a confirmation photo of the suspect will be released soon. Got it here in just a sec. It has been confirmed that the suspect died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Officials said it would take weeks or months to clean up the facility. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. visited the site Monday, met with Officer David Rose's widow, and surveyed the damage. If you recall, Rose is a DeKalb County police officer who was killed while responding to the shooting. The suspect's father told Cobb County 911 dispatcher he suspected his son might have been involved after he couldn't reach him. DeKalb County police said his son left a note apologizing and expressing frustration that his multiple attempts to call 911 in DeKalb went unanswered. A CDC employee also speaking out, with some saying they have long felt vulnerable due to the, quote, anti-vaccine rhetoric. One employee who asked to not be identified told CBS they were walking to their car when they heard the distinctive pop, pop, pop of gunfire and knew to get to safety. They also described the attack as shocking but not surprising. Rose's mother, speaking publicly for the first time, said she is still numb from her loss and believes his son would have put his life on the line for anyone. And WSB released right before we went on air that the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, released a photo. This gentleman right here, he doesn't look 30. Patrick Joseph White from Cobb County. He opened fire on the CDC Friday during the shooting. Officer Rose was shot and killed. So there's Officer Rose, who I'd much rather give more press time to. And at DeKalb County Police Headquarters, there is a cruiser and roses and a memorial and flowers and many people in the community mourning. So, yeah. And I will give more time to Officer Rose and his family than I will the bad guy, but I said that everybody needed to at least see the jerk. So, all right, we'll move on here real quick. All right, so this comes to us from the U.S. Sun, and it's another shooting. And it's at a Target in Austin, Texas. And apparently, at about 2:23 yesterday, they said there were people found dead from gunshot wounds. A third victim was transported to a hospital where they pronounced dead. and said the suspect, described as a 32-year-old male with a history of mental health issues, carjacked one of the victims in the store parking lot and then fatally shot them. The suspect fled the scene and wrecked the stolen vehicle and ran into a Volkswagen dealership. According to the police chief, the suspect carjacked another vehicle at the dealership and sped off. They tracked the suspect down to Southeast Austin, where he was arrested after being tased by officers. Details about what led up to the shooting have not been disclosed. The Austin police chief said that the suspect has a rap sheet. Our thoughts are with the officers and EMS and fire that had to come and work here at this scene. Forensics, everyone knows doing it at the scene. Fourth person was treated on unrelated injuries. So I'm not giving this story a whole lot of time, but it is once again yet another shooter. We seem to be having plenty of these. Well, if you're in Miami, this is a happier story. For my Key West fans and my Miami listeners, this comes to us from the Miami News. This comes to us from the sex dating list venues. The headline is "The Best Places for Public Sex in Miami." Yes, you heard me correctly. A newspaper is publishing best public places. If we put aside our social constructs and programming, we're all just animals at our core. Our species is sustained like any other. We eat, drink, sleep, and mate, so it's not that at all surprising some among us have the urge to practice the latter in public, just like the rest of the animal kingdom, and to our natural surroundings, which we're the most beautiful place on earth, the splendor of nature at our doorstep, tan bodies roaming the streets. Sex is almost literally in the air here. Is public fornication legal? Of course not. So we technically can't encourage anyone to whip it out at Flamingo Park after sundown. But our readers have input and apparently expertise on this topic. So we've compiled a list of the local places to get it on for all the budding and established exhibitionists out there. Here are the best places in public to get your freak on in Miami. And I hope that the police are listening to this. The alley behind Factory Town. My first thought at this reader submission was gross, but then my second thought, I was like, I get it. Most of the time, if you're venturing to Factory Town, you're leaving around sunrise with several substances swimming in your system. Maybe it's of the romance of an abandoned construction site, the visceral thrill from an all high-octane EDM, or perhaps you're still rolling your face off. Whatever the reason behind your sexual surge, make sure to wear rubber. The beach. While this is a classic South Florida location for public hookups and open-air playtime, if you will, public beach sex needs several disclaimers. During the daytime, there are families around, so just don't do it. At night, it can be dodgy. Some people think the sand is the most significant risk, but that's what lifeguard stands and towels are for. What? The truth is, you never know who might be trolling the beach at night, so please strip down at your own risk. Yes, there is something magical about the way the moonlight sparkles over an inky sea and the crashing waves muffling your little moans and memories, but staying safe is also important. I swear I can't make this up. Cemeteries. It's giving Morticia and Gomez Adams, if that's your kind of thing. Public sex can be risky, but at least here, the people around you can't rat you out. Bring a pillow and some incense to set the mood and try to avoid grandma's plot. That generation can be so judgmental. An added bonus, if you're here after dark, there's a pretty low probability strangers will just happen by. Okay. Gym, steam rooms, and sauna. Okay. Sweet muscles, testosterone, steam. It's a perfect PDA on steroids for voyeurism, if that's your speed. One reader summed up his odds of cruising at the gym this way. It's hard to go to the sauna at the gym and not get a BJ. You have to admit, if you're struggling to get to the gym, that's a pretty great motivating factor. Okay. Hiking trails. This suggestion allows you or your lover become one with each other and with nature. Smell the grass between your toes and leave your, seeds behind to take the rightful place in the circle of life. Choose a quiet spot off the trail and slather on the bug spray. No one wants creepy crawlies inside your delicate places. Try to make it quick, though. You never know who or what might just be lurking around the corner. This one is shocking. Home Depot bathrooms. Well, apparently it's a real verifiable thing. Cavernous spaces and fluorescent overhead lighting just get some people going. Perhaps the primal thought of nail guns drilling into drywall. Maybe it's all the hammers and screws. I really don't know. Try it and report back. Don't report back to me, please. The library. As an author, I really can't endorse this one, but since multiple people recommended these hallowed grounds, libraries made the list. Maybe reading turns you on, which I totally get, or maybe the fact that these spaces are clean, understaffed, and have plenty of quiet, hidden areas. Whatever your reasons, one courtesy, please. If you get naughty in these stacks, keep all your fluids off the pages. Good Lord. Miami Velvet. Apparently this is a club. This is the only entry where you can, quote, legally get your rocks off, maybe even with someone else's spouse. What? And possibly an audience. Miami Velvet is the 305's oldest and most established swingers club. And let's just say no one is surprised if you come here for sex. Guests must be members, but memberships can be easily purchased at the door. The dance floors can get freaky, but most penetration takes place in a group or private, quote, playrooms. The kink lounge are the new and improved shower room. The author is writer, mother, and reluctant socialite Ashia Ellis. She lives with her family in Miami Beach. She graduated from the University of Miami and a degree in journalism. And that was her story. So now you have it. All right. We're going to hit this one quickly because we're almost to the top of the hour. Adam Schiff. We all know who he is, right? Why is that not getting big? Okay. Am I still live here? What's going on? My screen's going crazy. Am I still going out? Yeah, I'm still going out. Let me catch up with the comments. No. Wait. What are you doing? Let me get up with the comments here. And Chris says, maybe the anti-vax rhetoric wouldn't be so strong if people like Howard Stern didn't say the unvax shouldn't be allowed in hospitals during COVID and left to die. That's a valid point. That's a valid point, Chris. All right, well, apparently this is what I'm getting. Adam Schiff apparently directed the release of classified info to target Trump, according to a whistleblower. This comes to us from the Daily Wire. Wait. And we're just going to hit the highlights on this. Adam Schiff directed the leaking of classified documents to target President Trump and influence public opinion, according to the whistleblower's claims in a newly declassified FBI document. The whistleblower, who worked for the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, told the FBI that Schiff had pushed for the leaking of documents in a meeting after Trump's election in 2016. According to a summary of an interview obtained by Just News, he was a major proponent of the discredited narrative that Trump schemed with Russians to get elected. The whistleblower claimed that Schiff orchestrated a plan to, quote, hurt Trump by leaking classified documents, according to the interview. In this meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information, which was derogatory to the President of the United States. Donald J. Trump, Schiff stated, the information would be used to indict President Trump. The FBI memo said that this would be illegal. Upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured him that they would not be caught leaking classified information. The whistleblower believed that this leaking would be unethical, illegal, and treasonous. The whistleblower was later approached about leaking classified information in a separate meeting by other unnamed individuals. The interview documents were declassified by FBI Director Kash Patel. We found it. We declassified it. Kash posted on X. Now Congress can see how the classified info was leaked to shape a political narrative and decide if our institutions were weaponized against the American people. Over the course of several years, the whistleblower conducted multiple interviews with the FBI, which were then summarized by the agent who conducted the interviews in a series of memos. And you can read this whole article, but apparently this was an ongoing thing for several years. And yesterday, if you followed it, Nancy Pelosi tweeted out that it was a bad thing that Trump was taking over. And apparently the Capitol Police Chief had a response for her that was, quite interesting. So if you're a fan of X, go over and check it out. You'll find some pretty shocking information. All right, let me hit a button here because we are at the top of the hour. I'd like to remind everybody listening on Radio X, Yerg's Radio, to come over and find us on YouTube. We're kind of a fun group here. We have a lively chat, and we encourage everyone to comment. And, of course, we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe.
You're listening to a Dare Media Group and Mastiff Media radio station. From Dare Media Group, Radio X Gold, Radio X Country, 6RXM, Radio X Magic, and Dare Talk Radio. And from Mastiff Media, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Forward Radio, Mastiff Sports, and Shady News Radio. For more information, visit daremediagroup.com.au or mastiff.medias.
You're tuned to the Sportcat Show.
And there you go. Top of the hour. It is 1400, 2 o'clock here on the East Coast of the United States. We're going to get into what we normally do. We always talk about the FEMA Daily Operations Briefing. This is Tuesdays. It was presented to the president at 8:30 a.m. on August 12th. All right, so new significant events. Glacier Lake outburst flood in Alaska. Didn't know that one. They are monitoring heavy rainfall and flash flooding in the southeast, excessive heat in the Pacific Northwest, the Great Basin, and the Southwest. We now have Tropical Storm Erin and, well, 2 other Atlantic disturbances, as well as Henriette, which is a Category 1 in the Central Pacific. And there are new ongoing situations, but they did amend 3 declaration requests for the Oak Fire in Colorado. So here is the Great Glacier Lake outburst flood threat. The situation as of 1:40 a.m. Eastern Time on August 12th, the Suicide Basin Lake located near Juneau, Alaska, population 32,000, has attained full capacity with observed overtopping of the ice dam. Although no release from the basin has yet been detected, a subglacier release could occur, which may initiate an outburst flooding event that could affect Mendenhall Lake and other adjacent regions. Annual flooding has occurred since 2011, however, has progressively worsened each year, with the flood of 2024 being the most destructive, impacting 300 homes in the Mendenhall Valley, the most heavy populated area of Juneau. It resulted in major disaster declarations. This year, the local authorities installed USACE, I don't know what that is, by HESCO barriers to divert the floods away from the most heavily populated areas. Current forecast scenarios, crest is approximately 16.4 feet below the 18-foot protections basin provided by the barriers. See graphic below. All right, so this is in Alaska, and this is what they're monitoring. I can't make it any bigger, but apparently that's a big deal. Tropical Storm Erin. Well, President Trump will be up there. Maybe he can get a look at it. Tropical Storm Erin is in the Atlantic, and, well, she's located 690 miles west of Cabo Verde Island. She's moving west at 22 miles an hour. Maximum sustained wind, 45, and the center of the storm outward, she's got 45-mile-an-hour winds. And she's expected to become a hurricane in the next couple of days. Tropical outlook, nothing in the western, central, and eastern Pacific. Henriette is a Category 1, and she's just moving away at 15 miles an hour and to the north-northwest. The Atlantic, well, we have Erin, which we discussed. Then we have another disturbance, which is a few hundred miles southeast of Nova Scotia. And we have the second disturbance, which is located in the north-central Gulf. And this system is not anticipated before it moves inland later today. So we're going to watch these over the next couple days, because as we've talked, anywhere for the next 10 to 12 or maybe even greater days could impact us. All right, so we're looking at heavy rain and flash flooding in the Appalachians, northeast Georgia, and in the Carolinas, and the portion of Tennessee. Spotty rain showers from New York State all the way down to the Gulf of America and back over to New Mexico, and wrapping around all the way up to Montana as that high is pushing forward. There's no indication of fire weather today, so that's good news. And tomorrow, that rain is going to move up into the Chesapeake Bay. And then on Thursday, well, I'm sorry to my friends in the Dakotas, it looks like more heavy rain and storms are coming. This is the excessive precipitation and excessive rainfall predicted for the next 72 hours. And as you can see, that line goes from the Gulf of America up through Alabama, over Georgia, and along the Appalachians, back up into southwestern Virginia before it finally reaches into Vermont. And that is where they can anticipate the most showers, and to the east on the Gulf shores. I'm sorry, not the Gulf shores, the Atlantic shores. And Tuesday and Wednesday, that's going to be the same thing, with the heaviest falling in the northeast Georgia mountains. Excessive heat. Yeah, it's hot today. Well, if you're on the West Coast in Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, New Mexico, you could have extreme heat today, so please be careful. We'll cover that a little bit more in a minute. And most of the country, with the exception of coming down out of the Midwest, is expecting another hot day. The Oak Fire in Colorado is still 0% contained, and they have, it's burned 150 acres, and it's burning on private and state land. At the current time, 0% contained, and I was looking to see, they say how many people are working on that fire, and they don't. Let's see. There's wildfires burning in Utah, Colorado. You know, they're not talking anything about the California ones. The ones in California are pretty devastating. Why are they not on the FEMA report? The space weather outlook for the next 24 hours is minor, and there's no sunstorm activity. And we see, of course, the Anchorage, where they were talking about Alaska. That's going to be more in the headlines. And we see that they are currently doing 17 joint field offices, 64 major disasters, 7 emergency declarations. We're still working to house and repopulate 12 different divisions or missions. And I wonder why we don't have anything more about the California fires. That seems kind of odd, because they're pretty much dominating the news right now. Let's see. I don't see anything else in there. All right. That's kind of odd to me, but okay. Let's move on to the president's schedule. Let me update this, because I understand that there were some changes to his schedule. Let's see if they're noted. We'll go back in time to see if anything changed yesterday. Well, no. It appears pretty much as we said. They had a press conference, and then they called a lunch lid, and then after that, they called the full lid at 6 o'clock. 9 a.m., the press was to report for a 1 p.m. briefing by Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, but there's nothing else on the calendar for President Trump. Let's go over here to WRC Washington and see what we got. All right, 40 minutes ago, Trump is threatening a lawsuit against the Federal Reserve Chair. Seems like that's been an argument going on for a while now. And Texas Republicans warn they'll call another special session if the Democrats are still out. Friday, D.C. judicial vacancies, why empty seats matter, and what Trump said he will do. Well, apparently, he's going to put in new judges. I don't know. Bowser meeting with Bondi. Bowser is the mayor of D.C. She's meeting with Pam Bondi about the D.C. police takeover. The D.C. police takeover was actually approved by the union, the police union. Don't understand why this is a story, but Pete Hegseth belongs to a arch conservative church network. I don't know what that means, but apparently it's the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches. And he made headlines when he shared a video on social media about it, showing its pastors arguing women should not have the right to vote. Oh, this is the story that Yergs was running with. Okay. And National Guard troops arrived in D.C. amid the police takeover. Now, remember, these troops are only going to be deployed if necessary. But the DC National Guard, the members are reporting. They've got their backpacks, sleeping bags, and they are reporting to the DC Armory this morning. And according to this, Trump has reacted to an inflation report saying the Fed must now lower rates. And they discuss what is cashless bail and what changes they want to make in DC. Consumer prices rise 2.7 annually in July as Trump's tariff drive up inflation, according to the WRC. Trump and Vance will meet virtually with Zelensky and European leaders tomorrow. And they discuss DC crime statistics. You can go check that out. National Guard troops did arrive, and Trump moves towards taking over Washington are unprecedented. DC historically majority black population wasn't electing its own city mayor until 1973 when Republican President Richard Nixon signed the Home Rule Act. Measures still left significant power to the president and Congress, though no president has exercised the police powers. Section 740, the Home Rule Act, allows for the president to take over Washington's Metropolitan Police Department for 48 hours and possible extensions to 30 days during times of emergency. No president has done so before, according to Monica Hopkins, the director of the ACLU. It was immediately clear how long the takeover might last or exactly what it might mean. And there's a lot of shows going wrong YouTube right now talking about this, and they're saying there's something else coming. Now, I'm not necessarily agreeing with this because I don't know, but okay, I was reading something a listener sent in. Yeah, I saw that, Chris. We may cover that if we get a few moments. But there's other shows suggesting that this might be something that the government knows that we don't. If you look around Washington, D.C. at this time, a lot of the legislators are out of town. They took an early recess, and this is odd timing, according to some. So that's being floated around. I don't know that there's any truth or validity to it, but we will certainly keep our eyes on it. So this is the National Forecast National Weather Service prediction. This is pretty much the same as we talked about. With today, we see the heaviest of showers right there along the Tennessee, Appalachia, Georgia, Carolina border, but pretty much all of New York to Florida, back over to Texas, and up to almost Minnesota can anticipate spotty showers, and to the west in Montana and Wyoming can anticipate spotty showers. Tomorrow, the Dakotas will have the heaviest severe thunderstorms once again, and that'll go down into Nebraska. And that low is going to move up the coast where the rain that we are getting today will be in Southwest Virginia. Day 3, we see that the Weather Prediction Center is calling for, once again, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota to experience severe thunderstorms. And that low is going to push rain back into the south all the way from the DMV down to the Gulf of America and over to the Texas Panhandle. And I think that's all from this page. Let's look here. Today, there is a less than 2% chance in the lower 48 of a tornado. However, there are some high winds expected in the Great Lakes and Chicago area, as well as reaching over into the Ohio Valley. And the winds could be kind of severe, so keep your weather radio on in case there is some type of weather emergency. And there is a very little possibility, except for in the tippy toe up there in the part of Minnesota, is it Michigan? Part of it we forget about. There's a potential for some penny to pea-size hail. All right, let's look at the weather forecast here. We've talked a lot about America, so let's talk about our friends down under real quick. We always like to keep them happy. And we'll start with Brisbane. Well, currently it is looking at sunny skies, 50 to 70 degrees. Warm morning. Well, it's going to turn pleasantly sunny by the afternoon. Temperatures are going to rise to about 54 to 56. And in the afternoon, possibly getting up to a high of 72. We'll venture over here to Melbourne. And we see partly cloudy, high of 56. Well, it's going to be cool this morning while you're waking up with a gradual warm up. You will see in the mid-afternoon highs in the upper 50s. We'll hop over here to Perth. And we see in Perth, it is partly cloudy to to rainy skies with a high of 74. So Perth, bright and clear skies dominate, but the temperatures climbing into the mid-teens or 58 in the morning, lows in the 20s Celsius by noon, and some spotty showers. And let's see here. I missed somebody. Sydney. Here we go. Sydney. Sorry, I missed Sydney. I apologize, Sydney. Well, Sydney, sunny weather expected, but it's going to be a cool morning, only getting to a high of 68. Yeah, it's going to be a brisk day. All right, so Brisbane and Perth, warmer climate, sunny by midday, highs in the low 20s Celsius. Sydney, mild and sunny, moderate warmth, developing mid-morning into afternoon. Melbourne, well, it's the coolest, lingering clouds, temperature staying under 15 Celsius. There you go. All right, so that is our Australian friends forecast. Let's go over to DC real quick and look and see what's going on over here in DC's weather. Washington, DC, well, you can anticipate a high of 88, partly cloudy skies. And let's go down to Jacksonville. Ooh, rainy, but a high of 91. Go over here to Montgomery. Let's go to Mobile. New Orleans. We'll go to New Orleans. And it's going to be rainy with a high of 84. We'll hop up here to Louisville. We missed some of our northern friends. Rainy in 88. Yeah, what's going to be here in Tennessee? That's what I want to know. Now, sunny. No, it's going to be rainy and a high of 85. It is already warmer than 85, I swear. New York City, you're looking for sunny skies, a high of 87. Boston, you're looking for partly cloudy, high of 89 today. And we'll hop over here to the Midwest. Bismarck, 79 sunny skies. Seattle, you're going to have a high of 86 with sunny skies, dropping down to Medford. 100 degrees today. Nice sunny skies. LA, high of 84 in sunny Phoenix. Ooh, triple digits, 110 degrees. Ooh. Las Vegas, once again, triple digits. High of 110. Sunny. Denver, you're only going to make it up to 87, but you will have sunny skies today. Omaha, high of 83, partly cloudy. And who do we forget? Memphis is high of 93 with partly cloudy skies. There you go. There's the forecast for today in most cities. Let's look at current weather map and see what we got here. Well, zoom out a little bit. There we go. We look and see down in the Gulf of America where that disturbance is. Heavy rain is coming onshore from New Orleans up into Mobile, stretching up into Montgomery, Atlanta, and it's broaching the Appalachians and splitting them. We're going to see some rain over the west side of the Appalachians in Knoxville, East Tennessee, back over to the Carolinas, and then along the Atlantic coast. It's looking like they're going to be in for a soaker. So that is going to stretch. That band of rain is going to stretch all the way up into the Chesapeake Bay. Let's see. Why is this not showing warnings? Well, let's just jump over to warnings and see what's going on. Let's see. This is the international radar. Sorry. Doesn't look like there's much rain right now, except maybe a little bit there north of Melbourne. A little bit of rain, spotty rain there. We'll zoom out and look over it to see if there's any difference on this one. It doesn't appear to be. Do we get a look at the disturbance? The one disturbance down in the Gulf of America. That other one's way back here. And then Erin is up there. We'll get a better look at her in a minute. All right. So Michigan special weather statement. That's where we were talking about today. Radar is tracking a strong thunderstorm near Marshall, moving at 25 miles per hour. So if you're in that area, have your weather radio on. Oh, there's the test message again. I don't know why they do that. I really don't. I should message them and ask why they do. So we have heat advisories for the New England area, Maine and New Hampshire, heat advisory, Indiana special weather advisory, flood advisories in the Carolinas, flood warning in Missouri, dense fog in Alaska. Red flag warnings. There are some red flag warnings, even though they weren't reported in Idaho on the National Weather Service's report. And severe heat in Arkansas, Mississippi, and well, we also talk about it up into Maine. It's going to be hot too. We're looking at areas up in Maine with a heat index value of 98, and they don't normally get that hot up there. So they're going to be warm. Washington, well, there's a heat advisory in Washington. Ohio, you have a flood advisory lasting for the next 3 hours. New York and Vermont is also got a heat advisory. And we have an air quality alert in Washington. And then along the coastal areas of the Carolinas, flooding in Arkansas. And let's see, lots of heat advisories today. In Minnesota, you have a air quality alert. I'm assuming that's probably going to be from the smoke. We'll see that here in just a minute. Yeah, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, all have air quality alerts. So let's just take a look at that and see what's going on. First, let's look and see where the lightning is. Oh, right now, it looks like that storm is really battering Baton Rouge. And that band, you can see that band extending all the way up there. It's going through Birmingham, Gadsden, following the Appalachia there, Chattanooga, and it's just this side of Knoxville in Oak Ridge, Morristown, and it kind of drops off a little from there, but that's going to be moving to the northeast. We see up here in Indiana, Indianapolis has got a very strong cell to the southwest of the city. So if you're in Indianapolis, Indiana, make sure to take cover. Over on the Atlantic side, well, it looks like the beaches are getting a lot of lightning activity from, looks like almost Myrtle Beach all the way up to pretty much Virginia Beach. So if you're having a beach day in the Outer Banks, please be careful. Hopping down to Florida, well, it looks like they're getting some lightning activity all the way from the Palm Coast, Titusville, down through Melbourne. So if you're on the beach there, please be careful. And on the Treasure Coast side, there's also a little lightning, but not as severe as it is on the Atlantic side. The Gulf of America and the Florida Panhandle looks like a pretty good time at the moment. We'll hop out to the west and we don't really see anything. Go up here and we look and see to the northeast of Detroit. There's a pretty decent storm with lots of lightning activity. That is extending all the way up into Toronto. Take a real quick look here. This is Erin, and she's angry. She's got plenty of storm in her, so lots of electrical activity coming out of it. Hey, Brenda, welcome. Did you just wake up, Brenda? We missed you. Where you been? We haven't seen you in a while. So let's look at the power outages in the USA. Currently, Texas is reporting 10,552 people without power. And it appears in Palmer and where is that? Grimes, Collin, those are the areas with the most power outages. We drop down here in Florida and see where the power outages are. And it appears like down here in Pinellas County and Bradford County is where the most power outages are being reported. Up here in Wisconsin, we see that along the Great Lakes, Milwaukee and Ozaukee and Waukesha are experiencing some severe power outages, and so is Sawyer counties. Let's see, and that's where we've tracked all that. So it looks like currently in the United States, there's about 20, 30, 40, 50, about 60,000 people without power. So there you go. You can look at this to get your information for your local area by going to poweroutages.us. Sometimes wonder why they let me talk. All right, let's look at some temperatures here. Currently in Houston, you're looking at 91, coming over around into New Orleans, 84, Tampa, 92, 91 on the Atlantic side in Jacksonville, 81 up in Virginia Beach, New York City, 87, Boston, 89, getting up into Vermont. You're in the high 90s along Lake Champlain. Dropping down to Louisville, 87. It's hotter than that here. It's 82 in Atlanta. St. Louis is 90. And we look over here and we see that Houston, Odessa are 90, but Las Vegas and Phoenix are already at 102. In Seattle, you're sitting right at a 79. We talked about that heat warning. We'll show it again here in a minute. Yeah, Brenda says it is hot. Yes, it is very hot. Air quality. All right. So San Diego and to the east, you have a code purple, and that means there's some very bad air along the Mexican border, all the way over to Tucson and back up north to Phoenix. So if you're in that area, please be careful if you're outside. And we see that the code yellow is pretty much for all of the northern part of Wisconsin, Iowa, and most of Minnesota, with it being code red, right in the center of that. So if you're in those areas, please be careful. Chicago, it looks like you're fairly clear. Some areas of Gary may have some poor air. Back up into New York, all the way up into Nova Scotia, we can see is a code yellow. And I was watching another show and they were talking about this smoke that we'll see here in a minute is got some extra hazardous things in it. So the air you're breathing right now is extremely unhealthy. So I don't know why that alert was put out in Canada, but I saw that in another show. So looking at the big, beautiful, perfect round globe, you see that much of the U.S. is wind free today. Most of the wind is actually coming down out of Canada, what little wind there is in the U.S. today. We see that the dust is probably not making its way over even to the Gulf. And we see that break right there at the equator. Let's go down and visit our friends down under and see if it's windy down there. And it looks like they're a little windier than we are, with winds coming out of the east, extending over to the west-southwest. Let's take a look at... I might have deleted. All right, so here is the Atlantic forecast for the National Hurricane Center. We see this low down here is disturbance in the north central Gulf. Really not exposed to do much, but just rain. So unfortunately, we have to tolerate that. But some parts of the country needed the rain, like Atlanta and Knoxville. Well, I don't know why I did that. We have Aaron down here. Aaron, well, it's still too early to know exactly what it's going to do, but we know that it's going to come towards the U.S., Puerto Rico, and the chances are that it's going to be moving closer, but the uncertainty is exactly where it's going to go. We look down here and see that the tropical force winds are going to extend out quite a ways. And why could I not make this bigger? Here we go. Arrival time of the winds. Reasonably, looks like it's not going to be over into the Bahamas until Saturday. So that's good news if you're on the beach. And let's see. Now, we really don't think that we don't have much data as far as past Sunday morning. So it looks like it's going to continue on its westerly trail, moving slightly deviating to the north some, but where the spaghetti model takes it from there is anybody's guess. So it's just a good idea to be prepared because, well, in the next 10 to 12 days, there could be a significant hurricane in the Atlantic. So we want to keep an eye on that. All right. So the space weather, we talked about this earlier. There's really nothing significant, minor disturbances. And if you're looking to go out and see the aurora, well, you're going to have to be up in the Great White North because it's not going to make its way down to anywhere in the lower 48. There is currently no tsunami warnings, advisories, watches, or threats. So that's good news. All right, well, this is out of order, but this is the heat risk from the National Weather Service. Brenda, I have had 2 Mountain Dews today, and I think I need another one. We'll talk later, Brenda. I just want to get out of bed today. Oh, look up here in the Northeast. Look at all those heat warnings. That's pretty much all of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. Code red, which means it's major. Stay indoors if you can. Make sure you're hydrated. Sunscreen if you're outside. Code orange, following all the way down the Appalachia, down into the Gulf of America, both bilaterally, east and west, code orange. Get into some code reds in Florida and southern Georgia. And most of the rest of the country is code yellow, which is minor. And still, it's sunny out there. And if you look over here on the West Coast, well, west of the Sierra Nevada, all the way down to Southern California, code orange, code red. So if you're outside today in any of those areas, please wear sunscreen and hydrate well. Look at the fires burning. And we see, well, let's see, this one here in the Backbone is 1,849 acres. And this is in, where is this? This is in Louisiana. We see the big fires over in Colorado that they're working on. And these are the fires here that just aren't being reported to me. 1,700 acres. That seems like a pretty big fire that they should have put in the daily report. 423 acres. These are all over in California. Guilford, 118,068 acres. You'd seen that would make more of the daily report, but they didn't have anything on there. 5,370. The Canyon fires, one of these was growing exponentially. I think it was up here in the Northwest. They're calling it the Orleans Complex. Can I see? And zoom to location. Will it show me? No, it's not going to show me the area contained, is it? Because this fire was growing at a very alarming rate, but I didn't see it on the FEMA Daily Report. But I'm seeing all the news reports saying that, well, it's a very large fire. Why did it do that? I don't know. Okay, well, I guess it's not going to show me the boundaries of the fire, which is what I wanted to see. Okay. We see up here into the Pacific Northwest. Well, according to the Forestry Service, there are fire warnings out there, so that are not reported by the National Weather Service, which is kind of surprising. Site's loading really slow right now. She says, Brenda says, I have coffee, so I can get a recap. All right. Well, that is the nice thing about my show. You can always come over to YouTube and find it. I encourage you to like, follow, share, and subscribe, because you can come over and see it at any time. I'm going to move on from this map because it's just loading slow and not cooperating. So we'll move on. And we see here, this is the fires, and this is also the smoke map. We see most of the fires, the smoke is coming from Colorado and Texas, extending up into the Midwest, all the way to Chicago. Now, so the problem is the smoke from the northern fires in Canada is coming in and merging with it and extending out to the east, pretty much from Washington up through Nova Scotia. So you are going to have very hazy days. Let's see, can I zoom in? It's not going to give me anything. Okay. I was really wanting to know more about these fires because they seem to be growing, but it's not being reported by FEMA. So, all right. Well, that shows the outline of that fire. Where was the one that was the larger one? It was up here somewhere, wasn't it? No. That's a containment area. There was one of these in California that was very large that was just growing, and they weren't talking about it. It's not even showing up on this map. I don't know. Weird. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about air quality in the world because we're an international show now. Brenda says, no, she wants it live. Well, I'll give you a recap on the phone, Brenda, if you want. All right, so we see the air quality from the smoke. Well, it sucks in most of the Northeast, combined between the West Coast fires and the Canadian fires. We see Erin out there. She's being choked down a little bit by the smoke. That's good because that's going to bring the temperatures down so she won't grow as much. We see coming over here, these disturbances. We still have the dust coming off of the Africa horn up here. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. And it's not really extending over to the west as much. So that's allowing for the water to really warm up. And so that's why we're so concerned about that hurricane down there. Look up here, just off of the coast of Greenland, and they've got a little disturbance spinning up there that is being underreported, but it doesn't look to be, well, actually, it does look to be kind of severe off of the Greenland coast. Wonder why that didn't make national news. And we see, looking over into our friends in Australia, well, the fires in Sydney and Griffin, that smoke is going to sit and kind of stagnate and travel up to the northeast where it's going to merge with the fire smoke from Brisbane. And that's all going to be pushing over to the west and skirting over to Cairns and Darwin. Now you do have these fires down in the south. That's extending pretty much straight up through Alice Springs and out to the west over Broome. So Australia, you do have several wildfires going at the time. So, all right. No, get out of that. Let's see. The latest earthquake. Let's update this. And Croatia was 1.8 2 hours ago. 2.8 following that. Papua Indonesia 10 hours ago, 6.3. Ecuador 3.5 11 hours ago. And we get back past that and we start seeing that it's been fair. We saw the other day the seismic activity. That was a pretty good report. Where did I see that? This here is Alice Springs is just by itself all out there. Yeah, it's alone. I understand that it's a great distance away from everyone else from what I hear. Let's see. 2.8 in, that was a small one in California. And that was the most recent one. I thought we just read the other one was in Papua New Guinea. Okay. Active volcanoes. Well, we see the volcanoes are active over here on the Alaskan Islands down into Russia. They're very active going over into Russia, and there's also a lot of seismic activity. Where did... Oh, okay. Okay, that's showing them. I'm trying to think where I saw that the other day, where we had the best report. Today, okay, here we go. Today's global seismic activity level is high. All right, let's read more about this. So the world earthquake, go ad free, maybe later, get off my screen. The world earthquake report for Tuesday, August 12th. It's a seismic activity level high, magnitude 6+. The report is saying 1+, 5+, 10, 4+, 65 earthquakes. And we see most of them are going to be down in South America and some over in the Middle East. All right, that's interesting. So you can see here in the 10 largest earthquakes in the past 24, a 6.4 in the Indonesia region, and a 5.5 in the Samoa region, 5.4 back in Indonesia. And okay, this is kind of a fascinating little, you can go to volcanodiscovery.com and get a earthquake report daily. And today they're saying it is a high seismic activity warning. All right. And let's go over here. Looking at the volcanoes, well, it's code orange for the Great Sitkin. And we've talked about that one numerous times. So slow eruption of lava today. And they're looking at the spur. Well, it's a code yellow. And unrest is there going to be continued rumbling there. Kilauea code orange. And they're not seeing any lava, but it is a code orange. And let's see. I'm just scrolling through here as we go. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to get off this. All right, let's go to the disaster alerts. And we'll see out here in the Pacific. We see the storm moving off, and it's not really going to harm anybody. Looking over here to the lower 48, goodness gracious, we got 8 new notifications. Severe weather in Vietnam, flooding in Alaska, volcano in Guatemala, thunderstorms in Hamilton, which is in Canada, and severe thunderstorms and squalls in Ontario. Okay, interesting. Let's close that. Looking. Zooming in a little bit. Atlantic coast from the Chesapeake down through Florida, and it's all dry, but it's dry down in Miami. Interesting. All right. We see here, this is the forecasted chart, but this is not in sunny. Erin is going to move into close to the Bahamas. From there, we're not sure where she's going to go, so keep an eye out for that the next 10 to 12 days. And let's see, we talked about fires over here in California, Guilford fire. No, that's not the one. I'm going to find out about that storm or that fire, because the one on the West Coast was supposed to be growing exponentially and not under control. So did I break up? Is that what you were saying? Did I break up, Brenda? Or I hope I didn't break up. All right. We haven't looked at this list in quite a while, so we'll hop around a bit. All right. So animal attacks in Pakistan, a crocodile attack. Well, it whips up a fear in Asia. Nigeria, malaria death toll reaches 1,650 cases. And let's see. Brenda says, I don't know if it's you or me. Brenda, it's probably me. It's always me. Epidemic hazards. Pakistan, well, they're still working with the dengue cases. They're on the rise. Italy has got West Nile victims up to 17. We're going to be keeping an eye on that. And Norway, 22 are sick as a hepatitis outbreak. Italy, a man killed and 9 rushed to the hospital as broccoli was recalled in a deadly outbreak. Well, see, vegetables will kill you. In the United States, 3 dead, 90 diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease in Harlem. And that's a severe outbreak in New York City, according to health officials. And we're talking about a harmful algae bloom in Fenway's Muddy River. Where is Fenway's Muddy River? Is that? It went totally away. Fenway's Muddy River is got Boston health officials are warning the public to avoid contact with water in the Fenway Muddy River. There's a cyanide bacteria, sometimes called blue-green algae. It's been found in the water, and apparently any contact can make sick humans and pets. Avoid eye and skin contact in breathing of the water, and rinse off if you come in contact immediately. All right. And let me close that. We drop down to collapse of public administration. Well, Iran's infrastructure crisis is deepening as power outage and water shortages disrupt daily life. And let's see, go down here to Pakistan. Well, there's even more of a water crisis, and summer temperatures are rising, causing the Middle East water crises to be much worse. Uganda on high alert after deadly border clashes with South Sudan. There's been heavy gunfire and blasts in the capital region. And we don't even talk about the Houthis. United States gunman kills 3 at a target in Texas. We read about that or talked about that earlier. And clashes in Iran have left 4 dead. Ecuador, police say 8 killed, 3 injured in a nightclub. Violence is surging. South Korea, bomb threat at the Olympic gymnastics arena. And we talked about Austin, 6 people killed in a mass shooting. Okay, if it's 6 people, 6 people shot, 1 killed. All right. What does that say? Because it would be a mass murder over greater than 4. And 1 person hurt, suspect in custody after a shooting at a military housing area in Waiawa. I don't know where that is. Baltimore had a mass shooting with 6 wounded over the weekend. Italy, thousands are marching against They plan to build a massive bridge linking Sicily to Italy's mainland. In UK, there are 200 people arrest in a pro-Palestine group protest. And they're reporting that in the Russian Federation, a terrorist attack was thwarted in Moscow, and in Pakistan, an IED blasted Jafar. And we could always talk about war because, well, there's always something new there. And Bulgaria, over 100 fined for beach parking violations. All right. UK, the British Navy behind leaks, according to investigations. All right. And an explosion at the steel plant yesterday. I think there's Chris, was it 2 people were killed? Let's see, hold on, let me catch up in the comments. Chris says, is RFK Jr. responsible for their 17 West Nile cases that literally are? Do people have common sense? No, it's, of course. Brenda, I'm not even going to. Somebody will at me. Let's see. There was a house fire in Maryland that left 4 children, 2 adults killed over the weekend. And India, fire breaks out at a temple with 7 injured, including the chief priest. And we talked about wildfires. We've talked about earthquakes, landslides in India, Pakistan. And apparently there was a landslide after a local tsunami. Okay, a landslide triggers local tsunami in southeast Alaska. The spur volcano in the U.S., along with the Great Sitkin and the Kilauea, have all been active. And flash flooding in Mexico. In China, severe flooding. And in Nigeria, flood kills 8 and destroys farmlands. And Iraq is facing major power outages. Canada, 12,000 British Columbia hydro customers in Richmond without power due to outage. In Iraq, over 600 pilgrims hospitalized after a chlorine leak. And talked about the largest National Guard troops arriving this morning. In France, a jellyfish has forced a nuclear power plant to shut down. Interesting. In Air India, flight door fails to open at an airport and they're stranded for hours in Asia. And in the UK, dozens evacuated after a water main burst into the street in North London over the weekend. And in Japan, a British F-35 makes an emergency landing over the weekend. There's a plane crash in, where was that? That was in Colorado, wasn't it? Yesterday, Romania, 2 killed in a small plane crash. Gambia, 2 killed in a bus accident. Peru, 3 killed, 30 injured in a bus crash. India, 7 killed after a pickup falls off a slope. All right. Egypt, 2 killed, 7 injured as a microbus runs over pedestrians. Nigeria, 5 killed, 6 injured in a crash. And water accident, 1 swimmer dead, 4 rescued after getting caught in riptides. All right, we talked about that off of the coast. We talked about the storms. And all right, we're going to move on to the next thing before we run out of time here. We're actually getting through some of the stuff today. I haven't talked as much. All right, look at the New England fire news. This goes back for the past 24 hours. With the most recent event being reported at 7:30 this morning up in Massachusetts. There in Sudbury, there was a working commercial structure fire. And let's see, stabbing. Where was that? On scene of a person stabbed in Philadelphia. There was no shocker there. Let's see, second alarm fire overnight in Oakland, New Jersey. In Washington, D.C., well, there was a 2-story middle-of-the-road dwelling fire with a box alarm. And let's see, Philadelphia, that's talking about the fire that was a 2-alarm at the Frankfurt Hospital. Oh, no, wait a minute, that's something different. That's a shooting. 2 gunshot wounds, stable condition, walk into the Frankfurt Hospital. It was hard to read that one. And perp search in Mass, Dedham. 3 perps fled into the woods after shooting. All right. Wisconsin, we don't often get alarms reported there. Second alarm for a 2-story single-family dwelling. And it was overnight. And I'm looking to see if there's anything major here. We had a stabbing in New York City in the Bronx. And a third alarm fire in New York City. And that was in Clifton Springs. And let's see. It's getting back a little ways here. If you want to read all this, you can go over to New England Fire News and get the update. Chris says that jellyfish is one tough SOB to shut a nuclear power plant. Yeah, I'm wondering, was it a nuclear jellyfish? I'm with pictures, oddly enough. Does that surprise anyone? All right, let's look real quick at the interactive map of crimes in the lower 48. And let's see, we'll start off down in Florida and see. Well, there is a, where is it? First responders rushed to the scene of fire burning at a popular resort in the Sunny Isles. Okay, that was yesterday. Jacksonville. Crews are working a residential structure on Berkeley. We get up into Georgia and we see a man critically injured in a stabbing in Macon, and we always got to have some fun stuff. Atlanta police is taking a car crash or a carjacking, and well, yeah. And Gwinnett County police are investigating a fatal shooting at a home in unincorporated Snellville that was near my home, where a rapper died. They're all rappers. They're all up-and-coming rappers I've found. And 2 comedians injured in Charlotte in a shooting over the weekend. Well, that's not funny. All right, hold on here. Is that got to be... There's no more to the story than that. Okay, well, I need more details on that one. It doesn't seem like it's very funny. Washington, D.C., we have the fire reported. That was 8 hours ago in the 3700 block of 8th Street. Active fire from the roof. 1 conscious victim was removed from the 2nd floor. All right. And what else do we have here? Adult male was originally listed in critical condition, later pronounced dead after being shot multiple times in the 1200 block of 12th Street. Well, where was the federales? They were supposed to be there for it. Champlain Street, well, a small fire at a first floor apartment. And back over to Anacostia, well, there was a working that was the working row house fire. Let's move up here and see what happened in Newark. Delaware. Man injured in a 4-wheel crash along the White Clay Creek. All right, Philadelphia. It's probably going to be a shooting. Investigation underway after police said a man was stabbed several times. We've talked about that in the past, about knife wounds. Woman found shot to death inside an apartment in Philadelphia. Up here in New York, I'm sure there's some interesting things in New York. And members of the Essex County Prosecutor's Crime Scene Unit collected evidence from 89 Astor Street, where a man fatally shot his ex-girlfriend inside her home. 42-year-old Kasim McDonald arrested for allegedly shooting 45-year-old girlfriend Shaqueen Williams in her apartment on Astoria Street in Newark. All right. And what do we have here? In Manhattan, well, shots fired. And what do we got up here? This is going to be 2 killed in a 7-vehicle crash in the Bronx. 1 driver is in custody. Brenda says, I'm going to make a smoked turkey wrap. Do you want one? Yeah, I wouldn't mind one, actually. What's going on up here? And women and 2 dogs found dead in a New Hampshire house fire. That's sad. In Burlington, police, this is in Vermont, Burlington are investigating a midday assault on Church Street involving a gun. Let's jump over to Chicago and see if there's any crime there. And wow, look at all this. This is all man shot in the back, and this is all shooting. Man shot in the elbow. Well, could be a good shot to get the elbow. Man shot in the ass. Okay, hold on. We got to read this story. 7 hours ago, man, age 20, shot in the ass, exiting the groin. That's got to be bad. Chris, follow up on this story for me, please. Man shot in the ass, exiting in the groin at 4748 South Damon Street. I don't know why I find that funny. All right. Let's zoom out here. See if there's anything. Nashville, what do you have? Teen injured in a crash involving an ATE. And Chris says the media has gotten a large part of the public thinking just because they don't see a firearm, they are safe. That's never the case. Yeah, never the case. So always think they have a firearm. And you know what? In some areas, you could be free to carry one. So I'm just saying. 2.7 magnitude earthquake in California. It was 12 hours ago. San Francisco, man, victim killed. There's a lot of dead people in San Francisco. And what happened down here in Tijuana? I'm just skipping around here because, well, the victim in last week's homicide has been identified in Tijuana. All right. Let's see. Anything else jump out at us while we're looking around here? Because we've got just a few minutes left. I don't see anything else on this map. Let's move on real quick. Let's look and see. A lot of times, you guys know I don't zoom in on certain things, but if you watch the news, you can kind of pick where some of this activity is just by looking at FlightAware and see what's going on. We see up here in Washington, D.C., it's always busy, but there's been a lot of recent ice activity as well. This coming down here in the Gulf of America, this is usually always training, especially when you get around the military bases. This is usually always training. And let's go back over here on the coast and see. We've monitored last week. Well, he's not doing much. We see a lot of the air tankers were refueling a couple days ago, and we're still seeing some activity out there. It's not as heavy though. Well, that's an E-20. They're looking for something out there. Let's see if there's any activity up in Alaska, since we know we're going to have a visit up there soon. See if there's anything up there. I figure there'll be all kinds of activity up there. That's a small Beechcraft. That's a Dignitary. And what is that? That is a C-130. He's just making some cargo moves. And that's a tanker. So they're doing some kind of aviation mission up there where they're refueling. So we can always anticipate when you see a tanker, there's multiple aircraft. We're probably going to start seeing, if you pay attention, we'll probably see it coming out of the Washington, D.C. region, where they'll start moving vehicles and equipment in advance of the presidential visit. We'll try and keep an eye out for that going up to Alaska. And C-17 Globemaster coming out of Atlanta. No, I'm sorry, coming out of Charleston. All right, we're almost out of time here. Let's take a look, the last few minutes, look and see. Oh, there's lots of balloons activities right now over the United States. So you can go over to SoneHub and check it out. And also over the UK. I don't see, there's actually some balloons active over Australia, which is kind of unusual. One in Melbourne and one in Sydney. So if you're interested in that, you can go to SoneHub Tracker. All right, we always go out of here with Bitdefender because we see the U.S. is constantly under attack, and it's always coming usually from the Middle East or Asia. Everybody, I'm out of time. Remember to come over to YouTube, like, follow, share, and subscribe. I need your support. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that we can get monetized, and I need your help in doing so. Everybody in Australia, thank you for tuning in. Remember, I will be back tomorrow at the same time, and then Wednesday night we have the Para Our Normal Guys, where we have 2 authors of comic books. So everybody have a great day. I'm going to get out of here before they cut me off. We will see you soon. Sportcat is out.